Hey, Jamie, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Good. Long time no talk, no see.
I
Even though we
know.
we actually don't live that far away. Are you
I
still in
know.
Orange County?
I'm still in Orange County right now. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. So Orange County, for those who don't know, is south of Los Angeles County,
Yep.
and I am just north of Los Angeles County. So,
Yeah.
I mean, even though it's one county over,
Like,
1 to 2,
theoretically, we should be like an hour apart, but really,
right?
with traffic and LA, it's like 2.5 sometimes hours
It's
apart, 3 hours, depends. So,
It's like a
yeah.
3-day drive.
Oh, yeah.
And
It's
so,
crazy.
yeah, it's too far.
Yeah.
So last time Jamie and I got together on the pod, well, actually the first time was episode 16. I
It's
didn't know
wild.
that you were one of my first guests. Episode 16 in 2018. We started this podcast in 2017. So
Wow.
you were one of the first guests. And then we did another double episode, 193 and 194 in 2021. And I didn't go back and listen to those episodes, but I know that we talked about your beginnings and how you got into the business and all that stuff. So the listeners, if you want to hear about the origin story of Jamie Dana,
Yeah.
that's where you want to go. Origin stories don't change
That's
unless
true.
somehow yours has. Have
Right.
you changed your
No.
origin story? Okay.
No, I think, it continues to evolve, but the origins would
It
still be the
evolves.
same, right? Unless you catch somebody like maybe in an elaborated like origin
Lie.
story, and then now it's changed a little bit. Then you're
Right.
like, wait a minute, hold on, I thought you said this.
That's only the politicians
Right.
change their origin stories, not
Yeah.
hairstylists.
Not so much.
Well, why don't you catch us up on what you've been doing? It's been 3 to 4 years, so catch us up.
Yeah, it's wild. I feel like our industry has gone through so much change in the last, we all say since COVID, and it's crazy just because that keeps getting longer and longer of a timeline now. But I truly think that COVID impacted not just our industry, but like my business. And what I do is I help hairstylists grow their business on Instagram. And what we've seen just like trend wise, like in the hair industry, and then like now into like 2024 and now into 2025, it's just like there's been so much that has happened, and yet it still feels kind of stagnant. I don't know if anybody else feels that way. I think for me, I've just seen like our industry get impacted a lot from whether stylists left the industry because they were no longer working, or, inflation has hit our industry really hard. And, so many more products cost more. And it's like, how do we raise our prices to be able to just make the same amount of profit that we were making before? So I feel like it's like been a big impact. And, my message has still been I still believe the best way to grow your business as a hairstylist. Of course, we've got TikTok. Of course, we've got other things, but I believe that it still comes down to having that foundation of Instagram and being able to come back to that. And yeah, probably what I taught in 2018 and 2020 and 2021 was a little different just because Instagram is different and our industry was slightly in a different place. The world was in a different place, but I still believe that you still have to have an online presence, and you should be showing up, and being able to put yourself out there is so key and so important. And the message that I used to say in 2018 was like, you have to get on Instagram, right? Like you got to get on Instagram, you got to start posting. 2021, people were a little bit more on board with that message, right? Most hairstylists had an Instagram, most salons had an Instagram. And now 2024, 2025, most stylists have an Instagram, I would say almost all. But now it's like, how is that evolving and how is that changing? And what does that look like with things like AI, and, video content being so front and center, storytelling being so front and center? What does that look like nowadays? So that's kind of what I'm teaching, and figuring out even where I want to go with that within my own personal brand as an educator, and kind of like what I do now. Yeah.
Okay, that's very good. So for those of our listeners who don't know you, you're a hairdresser. You were a behind the chair hairdresser, and you now focus on, I say now, I mean, you probably made this transition into 100% educator,
Back in 2018.
4 years ago?
Yeah, 2018
was
actually.
it 2018? Okay.
Yeah.
So
it might have been around the time of the first episode was when I was transitioning out from working behind the chair part-time into full-time education.
You were transitioning. You hadn't fully transitioned. I know you were still seeing clients in your studio And, probably I remember you saying just like your favorite clients, who were never going to let go of you. And then I think the second time that we spoke in 2021, you had transitioned into a full-time educator of hairstylists with all of your background as a hairstylist. And you focus on helping people use Instagram to attract dream clients. You also founded something called Ember Retreat, which we'll talk about. And you're doing great on not just Instagram for your own business and personality, but YouTube. Your YouTube has grown a lot. I remember it in 2021. It was growing. And I remember looking at it and being very impressed and thinking, well, it kind of seemed to me like Jamie Dana was one of the first ones who was doing YouTube really well as a hairstylist educator. And now you've got 250,000 followers, I think, on YouTube. So you're still doing that highly effectively. Yeah. So that's kind of background on you. And you spoke a little bit about Instagram and why you're still doing Instagram, but I kind of want to start with just the question, is Instagram still number one for beauty professionals to attract clients?
I believe it is. And here's why. I'll make the argument in the case of why. Like I said, of course, there's other things like TikTok. I think that there's other platforms like, Google reviews or Yelp, right? Like that could be looked at as another platform. Some people have been even saying LinkedIn. I don't know about that. That's not my area of expertise, but hey, here we are. But I think that
really quick, I want to throw it out there about LinkedIn because the listeners may be like stumped with that one if they hadn't heard this.
Yeah.
But I did have a guest or two mention that LinkedIn had some green space. It was a kind of a new area to try to get professionally oriented clients.
Sure.
And so that was kind of where that came from. But
sure.
But keep going.
I mean, hey, I love it. Like I said, it's so not an area that I've looked into or researched at all, but yeah. I'm sure there's somebody out there teaching it, which would be amazing. Like go for it. Amazing.
Yeah.
But the reason why I love Instagram so much is because it does bring in all of those elements of the visual side that clients are looking for, right? Like they want to see your work. They want to see what you're doing on clients. They want to see you. They want to see your personality. And Instagram is a really easy way to show up in that, whether it's on stories or through a reel or even just through photos or the captions that you're writing, right? There's storytelling within that and being able to see you. And I think that there's this trust that comes from Instagram. Now, of course, TikTok is totally another area where you could do that as well. It's not my area of expertise. I know there are stylists and educators over there who have grown and exploded on TikTok, which is amazing. But for me, that has actually been a platform that I've had to kind of like come to terms with, like, I'm not going to use TikTok to try to grow my business. And the reason why is because I truly believe that us as humans, we only have so much capacity, right? And running a business and running an Instagram and for me, running a YouTube channel and then having a personal life, there's only so much that I could do. And I knew that I couldn't show up on so many platforms. So my rule of thumb in business has always been 1 to 2 platforms max. And like, once I've kind of figured that out, like that's it. So that's personally for me, why I don't have a podcast, why I don't really do blogging, because I show up in 2 places, Instagram and I show up on YouTube, and that's it. So like I said, yes, TikTok could be that place for you, but I would say, like, if you're listening to this and you're wondering, should I do TikTok? Should I do Instagram? Should I do whatever? Figure out what's going to align best with you and how you work and like how you want to show up. Maybe for you, it's like really casual, off the cuff, kind of like natural videos. That might be TikTok. Amazing. But also that content might work on Instagram. And then you have to ask yourself, okay, not only like what kind of content do I like to create, but where are my dream clients hanging out? Where are they consuming content? And maybe if you're like, hey, I want to attract like a Gen Z clientele, they might be over on TikTok. Like they might not be hanging out on Instagram as much. But for me, and especially at the time when I was growing my business behind the chair, Instagram was where it was at. And even still as I'm growing my business, because don't forget that just because I'm not a hairstylist behind the chair doesn't mean that I'm not using Instagram to grow my business. Of course I am. I'm just looking for dream clients in a different way. They're hairstylists, right? They're salon owners, they're beauty professionals. So it's still the same things that I do now and teach, just as like in a slightly different messaging. But the overall strategy is the same. So to answer that question, yeah, I still believe that Instagram is the place to grow your business for sure.
And I'm not surprised that's true. I would, if somebody asked me on the street, I would probably agree that it is the best one for it. So I was perusing your content, and there was a post that you had nearly a year ago. I mean, at January 5th of 2024, but you pinned it to the top.
Yeah.
And I know why you pinned it to the top, because it was such a good piece of content. It was a slider post, and it starts with, if I started over on Instagram, here's what I'd do, which I thought was just so smart, because a lot of the people on Instagram, we have had this account for a number of years. And how many times have we actually gone in there with kind of fresh eyes, trying to take a new perspective on it to make some good changes? And I still see my pet peeve, my personal pet peeve for like where I sit in this industry.
Yep.
My pet peeve is the fact that I'm gonna jump forward and spoil it a little bit. Is that beauty professionals still here we are in 2024, do not put their location.
That drives me nuts. I was wondering if you were going to say that.
Location. I'm not talking about specific salon, which would be helpful too. But how about Hackensack, New Jersey? How many times do I go onto somebody's profile and I'm digging around? I have no idea where they work, where they live. They could be in Canada. They could be in Mexico. They could be in Moscow, Russia, for all I can tell on their profile. And I can only think that people don't think to put it on there because they're not thinking through the eyes of the audience out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course I live in Westwood, California.
Right.
You know, isn't that obvious? Like 7 posts ago, I geotagged Westwood, California. I tagged it.
I use the hashtags. Come on. Of course I'm there.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I actually teach something called the follower experience. And this is basically, if you think through to that point, right? So often we don't look at our pages, our profiles from the client's perspective. Yep. And if you're listening to this, I want you to do an exercise. I want you to try to find someone in your area that does a specific service. It could be a tattoo artist. It could be an esthetician. It could be a nail salon, whatever. I want you to then go through the process of how you as a client would find a place to get that service done. And I've done this myself, right? Like sometimes I'm looking for a tattoo artist in a specific area, or, you know, a new facialist or a nail place, whatever. I will go through and I will search for, you know, nail salon, Orange County or Tustin or whatever, wherever I live. And I try to go through that follower experience myself so that I can kind of get an idea what it's like to be the client. And I'll tell you, there are certain pages that pop up at the top. There's pages that pop down further down. There's ones that I'm like, oh, immediately want to click onto it because they're a cute profile photo. I read their bio, you know, whether they have highlights or they've got pinned posts at the top. There's all these things that clients are doing when they click onto an Instagram page or when they're searching Instagram for an Instagram page. And so often we don't think through that experience for our pages. So once you've done that, whether you've done it for whatever service it is, I want you to go back to your page and think, okay, if somebody were to click onto my profile, what is the experience that they're having? And is the dream client, the person that I want to have in my chair, would they click the follow button? Would they reach out to book an appointment? Would they click around or would they click away? And we want to make sure that every single time a dream client lands on your page, they're at minimum clicking the follow button. And if anything, they're starting to follow your content, starting to watch what you're doing, and eventually will hopefully book an appointment with you. That's what we want to do. So you have to look at things like your profile photo, your searchable name at the top. So often, like you said, one of your biggest pet peeves is not having the location, but my biggest pet peeve is there's sometimes not even a name in the page. Like there's the other day I was looking for someone and their username was something, it had like a letter in it, but it didn't have their actual name. And then I clicked onto their page and it still didn't have their name, and their profile photo wasn't a photo of them, but it was a personal page for a hairstylist. And I had no idea who this person was. How am I, the client, supposed to make a connection with this person? So just think through those things. What does your bio say? What do your Instagram highlights have? Do you have Instagram highlights? If you don't, do you at least have a pinned post at the top that talks about how to book an appointment, or what your prices are, or how they can get a hold of you, or how to book an appointment? Do you have all of those things? And that is the foundation of our profile. And then we can get into the content strategy and what kind of reels to use and trending audios and all of that stuff. But it's the main thing is that follower experience. Do you have one that people will want?
Absolutely. Taking a nice objective look at yourself. And of course, right? I don't mean at yourself, but I mean your Instagram. And sometimes it feels like you're looking at yourself, and you have to be critical, and nobody likes to be critical of themselves, but act as if you're looking at somebody else's profile page and stuff, and try to get a clear idea of how you can improve it. Okay, so we're going to go back to that post that I mentioned, which again is pinned at the top. It's from January 6th. So number one, so I think you said that there's 10, maybe. Let's see, hold on. Well, I don't know if there's 10. It's a slider. So I'm going to slide. The number one, make sure I have a clean and clear profile photo that represents my brand. Okay, so we see puppies, we see a particular client's hair that's beautiful, where you got the blonde just right. And there's, of course, the icon that we have on Instagram is so small, tiny. You can barely even tell what it is. Okay, so what do you suggest? Do you suggest a picture of the human, or do you suggest maybe a client turned around and the hair is there? Do you suggest, a picture of their kids and their family? What do you suggest?
So, this goes back to, again, that follower experience. And one of the things when people are searching for profiles on Instagram, the only thing that they can typically see is the photo, your profile photo, and your username. That's all they have to go off of. So if your username is, XYZ123 _ hairstylist, right? That's not necessarily going to get them to click over. And if your profile photo isn't intriguing, that's also not going to get them to click over to your page. So my recommendation is a nice, clean and clear photo of you, whether it's a selfie with a clean backdrop, nice lighting. And the biggest thing that I would recommend, and there's like actual psychology around this, that when people are able to see the eyes of the person in the photo, they are more likely to trust them. So sometimes I will see hairstylists, they have this really cute aesthetic photo, right? Like, I think gone are the days where we have so many hairstylists that have a puppy as their profile photo. Like, that was 2018, 2019. We still see it. Sure. And if that's you, time to change it, right? But I think now Instagram has evolved, and right now there's a lot of people that really want that cool aesthetic, which, don't get me wrong, I love, but at the same time, there is something that comes where aesthetic becomes more important versus utility. And a profile photo really needs to be utility, not just aesthetic. So when people are able to connect with the eyes, they're more likely to trust you as a human because they feel like they know you. So if it's a photo where you're kind of like looking away, or like you said, a client's photo or something like that, or a photo really far away, they can't really see what it is, that's not going to help them connect with you. So nice and clear, like a headshot. It could be a selfie, it could be something clean, clear background, good lighting. That's it. Something simple. Yeah.
I totally agree. Also, I'll just add on top of everything that you just said, now that we are in 2024 and Instagram has been around a while and there's quite a bit more spam, there's quite a bit more
Sure.
fake accounts, there's quite a bit more, things like that. Like some of the spammiest in our society have figured out how to use Instagram, to kind of spam people. And I find myself, when I see a profile picture, if it's not a human on there, so often that's the type of image that's used for those people who want to be anonymous.
Yes.
And they want to leave creepy comments, and they want to DM a bunch of spam to you for like free followers or whatever. That always seems to be that kind of a picture. And so as a consumer of Instagram and somebody who's on there, I just kind of assume that when I don't see somebody's eyes on that profile picture, that it's not a real person. It could be an AI bot or something like that, and I'm much less likely to click on it. So that was just my way of piling on to what you said.
Well, and to that point, I mean, like, you bring up such a great observation, because here's the thing. It's 2025. We're just getting in the AI world. I mean, yes, it's been around for a little bit, but it's the beginning. And that's what's crazy is AI is only going to get stronger and bigger. And when we record this episode again in 3 years, you and I, we're going to be like, oh my gosh, remember when we were talking about AI being new? It's crazy. So with a lot of things, there are a lot of AI generated images. And I don't know if you remember that trend early 2024 where everybody was taking a photo of themselves and uploading it to that AI service, and it made them into an AI version of
Russian
themselves. I don't know. There's a bunch of them, right?
There was a Russian app who would make us this way or that way. Yeah, that was popular for me.
And it of course made everybody look just a little bit better than where they look right now. A little tighter, a little lifted. Anyways. Here's the thing. People are using that as their profile photo. And while it can feel fun to do something like that, again, we as humans want to connect with other humans. And if we feel that there's a barrier there, whether it's AI or we feel that it's in, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not you, then we're not going to trust that.
Trust. So it comes down to trust.
Trust. It's huge. And so everything that we can do on Instagram to be a real human, to be us, is what's going to make you stand out from everyone else on Instagram, especially as we go forward into these next couple years. It's going to be huge.
Totally. If this person tried to fool me into thinking that I look like the model that, the AI app generated, the model version of me, then what else are they going to try to fool me about? And I know that maybe sounds severe because it's just a silly app and we were playing with it and all that kind of stuff. But that's kind of what it feels like from a third person who's seeing this fakely generated picture, who then, of course, eventually is going to see the actual person and be confused.
Sure.
It's credibility, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so number 2, optimize my bio by putting my location.
Yeah.
And salon info and what kind of services I want to specialize. So important. I just don't know why people don't do this.
Well, I think
what else we already talked about it, but is there anything else to say about it?
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to your bio, I think that it's having those little details that are going to have somebody, when they click onto your profile, read the bio really quickly and go, oh, maybe this could be my next stylist. Probably if they're looking to your page, they're maybe looking for somebody to do their hair. Maybe their friend is your client and they tagged you and they're like, oh, who's this stylist? Or they're actively searching out for a new stylist to go to. So when your bio is missing that information, you're missing out on potential clients. So we got to make sure that we have it in there, right? We got to have whether what you specialize in. And when I say what you specialize in, we don't need 5 things. Let's keep it short. Let's keep it concise. I would say maximum 3 things, like, blonde specialist or natural balayage specialist or curly hair specialist, something really simple so that people can go, oh, that's me. And I think that's so important because it helps our dream clients self-identify with, oh, this is the person that I want to go to. And then they can click and they can see your location and your salon info and how to book an appointment. So all of those things are really key to have in your bio, and often we miss that. So one thing I was going to mention earlier, kind of going back to that follower experience, this is all part of that. And if maybe you struggle with looking at your page and objectively seeing like, okay, do I need to change this or do I not? Have a friend go through it. Have a coworker say like, hey, pretend that you're a client and you're looking at my page. What would you change? Or what doesn't make sense? Or what should I add? And just asking that question from somebody else is going to really help you, because I don't know about you, but like, I have a hard time looking at my content. I'm like, I don't know, it's not that good. Or I have a hard time coming up with content ideas myself. Like, it is what it is. Like, it's our business. We're in it. We have a hard time with it. But when we have somebody from the outside looking at it, it's going to make such an impact because they're able to see the things that we're just blind to.
Absolutely. All right, number 3, have an About Me pin posted at the top of my page. So when a new follower lands on my page, they can learn about me and see who I am.
Yeah. So again, this comes back to that storytelling that I've been talking about and that trust. People connect with other people and they want to get to know you. If you think about it, a client that is going to sit in your chair for 2, 3, sometimes 6 hours, I don't know, depending on how long the process is, they want to get to understand who you are. And Instagram is a great way to do that, to connect with them. So whether this is just a simple photo of you so that instantly when they land on the page, they can see your face bigger than the profile photo, they can see who you are. It could be a little photo dump, like a little carousel, a swipe over post that shows different images of you, maybe you on vacation, you with your family, you working in the salon, whatever you want it to be. It could be a reel about you. Whatever it is, it doesn't need to be complicated. And the cool thing about these posts is you can post them whenever you want and then just pin it at the top. So in the caption, it could be something like, hey, it's been a while since I've reintroduced myself here. I thought that I would share 5 fun facts about myself, and, share those in the comments. And then you could add like, hey, do we have anything in common? Let me know below, things like that. And it's just a fun way for people to kind of get to know you so that they can connect with you. Because I guarantee that if a client lands on your page and they see that little post and then they click into it and they read the caption that like, oh my gosh, you've had 3 dogs. And they're like, I have 3 dogs. Like, instantly there's that connection. And guess what? They might be more likely to book with you than the random stylist down the street. So that about me, that connection is so important.
I would like to add to that.
Sure.
So yes, if there is some connection that can be made in the story, that's amazing. But even if the hairstylist has 3 dogs and I don't have any dogs, and even if there's not a direct correlation, to give somebody an idea of who you are and what you're going to be like when they come and sit in your chair, it alleviates a lot of the concern that all clients have when they're hairstylist shopping. They just want it's important to give them an idea of what it's going to be like when they're sitting in your chair, what kind of person you are, because it's even if there's no direct correlation,
sure,
it gives them a sense of, okay, this is a real human. It's not going to be some creepy whatever.
Sure.
They're out there with who they are, and I would feel comfortable sitting in that person's chair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like a lower standard of making connection. The standard that you were talking about is amazing if you can make that. But a lot of the concern when I talk to clients out there who are hairstylist shopping is they just want some idea that you're a decent person, right. Totally. What you're going to look like. And, you're not going to be some creepy person that they're spending an hour and a half with.
Yeah.
It's a lower standard, but it's still important.
It's huge. And again, like so often, like you said, when you land on pages and you don't see that location, when I don't see the person's name or the person's face on their page, how am I going to connect with them? How am I going to know who that person is? And when I walk into that salon, it could be any stylist standing there, right? Like any person could walk up to me and say, hey, and not that it's about looks, but it's about that connection. And you bring up a really good point of hairstylist shopping, which I just love that term because it's so true. It's like we're shopping around to find the right person for us. And I like to use this example, and it's actually why I recommend on Instagram that you should be posting photos or reels of your salon too, because so often we just see hair photo after hair photo after hair photo. We don't know what the stylist looks like. We definitely don't know what the salon looks like. How is that client going to feel comfortable walking into that space? And I use the analogy of how many times have you ever walked by a storefront and maybe they have like a design on the window, or they have tinted windows, or they have curtains on their windows, and you can't see inside? How many of us are going to want to step into that space? No, like we don't know what's on the other side. It could be like a murder place inside. Like, I don't know what I'm walking into. I want to know what I'm stepping into. Versus when you walk by a storefront, they've got windows, you can see inside, you can see details, you can see how far back the space goes, you can see colors, you can see all the things. You're more like, oh, I know what I'm getting myself into. And Instagram is like that. It's like our storefront. And if we give people glimpses into who we are, to how our personality is, to what our space looks like, not just our work, but the whole package, people feel more comfortable. And I think we have to remember that client experience, that it starts on Instagram and it continues into all the way until they check out. But like you said, clients are nervous. They're scared to, book an appointment, the unknown of like meeting the person and going into a place that they don't know. And then of course, getting their hair done and the services. Like, I actually just recently got my haircut done not too long ago. I booked with a stylist I did not know. And I went in as a regular client. And to me, that's such an educational experience because it's helpful for me to remember, like, oh yeah, this is what it feels like. I'm nervous. I don't know this person. Are we going to connect? Who are they? I had a little bit of information from their Instagram, which is why I booked with them. But if I didn't have that, for sure, I would not book with them because I wouldn't know who they are. So
did they know
you bring up such a good point. They did follow me. Yes, they did follow me. But I did reach out. I sent them a DM just saying like, hey, I booked an appointment, just whatever, just so that they'd be on the heads up. But it's a great experience to do because it helps us be put in that position of A, having to search for a hairstylist on Instagram, and B, the whole client experience. I actually did a whole YouTube video about it because I think it's such a thing that we forget about.
It's a great corollary to what I was saying about the human, giving the potential client an idea of of even that there is a real human behind the Instagram account. And I know that sounds silly, but it's true. And unless we see somebody on there, then you're not really sure. And then you talk about the space, giving them an idea of what the space looks like. And that's very important for me, especially because I build spaces for hairdressers. And one of the things that we care about a lot is being able to see in the windows, to be able, when you walk in the salon, to be able to see as far into the salon as possible. I can't stand salon design when you walk in and you run into a wall.
Yes.
And then to get to your hairstylist, you have to walk around the wall. You don't know what's behind the wall.
What's behind the wall?
It could be anything. It's like, my amygdala, part of my brain from, 3,000 years ago is like, is there a lion in the bushes that's going to jump out and eat me? As I walk around the wall, all of these kind of natural human nature ways of thinking and dealing with the unknown. I like there to be as much visibility as possible so people know what they're stepping into before they step into it. So there is that human component to it, and there's the spatial component to it. And I think it's such a great idea for a beauty professional to put what their space looks like on there. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, nowadays there's so many easy ways that you can do that. It could be a reel where you literally take 1-second clips of little details in your salon. So like walking in the front door, the front desk area, products, your station, the shampoo area. Like there's just 5 clips right there. You put those all together, you put it with a 6-second audio, you add some text that's like, welcome to blank salon, and that's it. Or like, your experience is here. You know, POV, you walked into the next place where you walked into the best hair salon in blank area. You know, there's so many fun little
Time
hooks
to
that you can
relax.
add.
Yeah.
Yes. And people immediately are going to feel just that sense of relief. Just being
Yes.
like, oh, okay, cool. Like, and it actually might help you get clients because let's say you have a really cute space. They're like, oh, I totally want to go there. That looks so relaxing.
So one of the best videos that I see, I don't see them all the time, but I see them enough, and I think it's so smart. So when somebody moves into Salon Republic, they get their studio all ready, and then they video themselves walking into the salon from the street.
Yeah.
And then, they take a right, and there are 3 studios down on the left, and then you see their studio, and they kind of pan, and they're like, this is where I am, and, come see me. And you watch that the 20-second video, and you know exactly what to expect, and it gives you a sense of, wow, this person really has their stuff together, super professional. Like that sounds like something that I would like to go do, is go to that person's studio. Very important, and do not underestimate that audience, please.
Yes.
Okay, number 4, make sure I'm sharing a variety of content, not just hair photos.
Yeah.
What kind of variety of content?
I touched on it a little bit, right? So photos of you, photos or videos, right? So when I say photos, it could be a photo. It could be a carousel / photo dump. It could be a reel. So a post about you, post about why you are a hairstylist, post about why you love working with your clients, post about your favorite Netflix show, right? Like there's so many fun things that we can do there. We can also do salon posts. So this again is those reels, is that walk with me, or come get ready for a day in the salon with me, come wash my bowls with me, come mix up my client's color with me. All of those things could be super fun. Also product types of posts. So these could be educational posts of like 3 ways that you might be using dry shampoo the wrong way, or next time you get your color done, don't do this, right? Things like that are fun educational posts that a lot of clients have no idea about. And you get to talk about retail in a natural way instead of just being like, 20% off Unite products this week. Like no one's going to buy a product like that unless they're already coming in for their appointment. We have to educate people with those things. So there's so much content ideas out there that aren't just hair photos. And this is like what I love. And this is something that I have been teaching since the beginning of when I've been teaching Instagram, is the best way to stand out from every other hairstylist and salon is just to show variety. And so often, I know you feel the same way. It's either you go onto somebody's Instagram page and it's a mess. You're not really sure if they're a hairstylist, or, there's a photo of like Starbucks and like a child, and then there's like hair photos and it's random, or it's just hair photo after hair photo after hair photo after hair photo. And so we have to start thinking, how can we add in that variety into our page? Not only is it visually going to help people connect and want to read more, click through more, click the follow button, but in those individual posts, once people are already following you, they're going to get a little bit more variety of content versus just like balayage I did on my client yesterday. You know what I mean? Like we got to start adding more variety to all of our content. Yeah.
Absolutely. Number 5, use a content plan and prompts so that I'm able to post consistently with new content ideas that I didn't have to come up with on my own. Explain that. I'm assuming that you help hairstylists do that. That's part of what you offer.
Yeah. So I have a membership called the Social Suite, and that's literally what we do. And that's like why for me, I'm so passionate about like, okay, there's variety that you can add. There's different things that you can do in your captions that help convert people from just following into actual clients. So in the membership, we give them pre-written captions because I don't know about you. I hate writing captions like most people do. We hate writing captions. It's not something that's like, yeah, let me go write out a full caption right now, right? Especially at the end of a long salon day, we probably don't want to write a caption. So we give them pre-written captions. We give them photos. We give them videos. We give them different reel ideas. We give them reel hooks. So all of those things that hairstylists just don't want to come up with on their own. And I say don't because, like, for me, like I mentioned earlier, like, it's my Instagram. It's hard for me to come up with content ideas. I can come up with content ideas for your page all day long, but for some reason with my page, it's just harder. So with those kind of hairstylists, you know, if you need support in that area or you just don't want to have to do it all on your own, that's what we do inside of our membership. So I have a couple different resources. I have, like free things, all types of stuff. But the membership is really where monthly you're going to get that new set of content. So you don't have to create it on your own, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that was the end of the post. So I thought that was highly beneficial.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Ember Retreat.
Yeah.
When did you start it and what is it?
So it started in 2018 and I started it with a business partner, Piper D. Young, and we got together. She's actually from like the makeup side of the beauty industry and does events and things like that. And her and I were friends. We had some mutual friends and we were like, you know what? There is not something in the beauty industry that is like a retreat for hairstylists, something where they can get away, kind of go on a vacation, but also get business education. And at the time, there truly was nothing like this. And we had seen it done in the wedding photographer industry, kind of in Southern California. And we were like, what if there was something like this, but for hairstylists and for beauty professionals? Like, how could we create this? And in 2017, the idea was born, and we had our first event in 2018. We did a second one in 2018, which was wild to think about. We did one in 2019, and then we had one ready to go, all sold out in like an hour on March 1st, 2020, which
1st.
obviously did not happen. So we ended up rescheduling it and then it just had to cancel. So we like refunded everybody their money and we were like, okay. So then we came back in 2023 with one, and then we actually just did our last one in October of 2024, and we just kind of finished that up, and it's been such a good journey. I feel like we've supported hairstylists and these business owners in a different way than what the industry had. And we're sad to like let it go, but at the same time, we're just both in different places in our business. And we're like, cool, we've grown and evolved as, you know, business owners and as people, and our businesses have changed, and it's time to move on to the next chapter. So will I say it's like my last event ever? No, like for sure I'll do something again, but
it's a tremendous amount of work, is it not?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I don't know if anyone truly understands these events that go on, not just in our industry, but of course that's what we know. It is a tremendous amount of, I mean, our holiday party that we do every year, which now has thousands of people who go every year, we have to start planning it in January. And of course it's in December. So we just finished it. And we have to start planning it again like 30 days later. And it's like the last thing you feel like doing is starting to plan it again. But you have to, because there's so much that goes into these events. I'm sure Ember was like that.
Yeah. And, you know, I think one of the things that was really good about her and I is I'm a huge finances person. So I love money. I love spreadsheets. I love making sure that things are going to be profitable. And one of the things that we talked about was we need to crunch the numbers before we ever sign a contract, before we ever say, like, let's go do this, before we sell a ticket, to make sure that we are going to be able to turn a profit on this. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of events in the hair industry that have been amazing events, and they've done so much good for our industry. But on the backside, I know a lot of them personally, they just weren't profitable. And so then they've had to shut down.
They cost a lot of money, right?
Because they cost a lot of money. Yeah. And I think people don't realize that, you know, you see the ticket price, and then, you know, if you do the ticket price about how many people attended, and then you're like, oh my gosh, they just made all this money. And you're like, whoa. It's not how it works at all.
Well, I'm just saying, not only were they not profitable, but they were actually a significant expense to the individual who threw the thing. Which is you know, who wants to pay $20,000 to have a bunch of their hair friends, you know? I mean, it's that was not the intent.
Yeah. And I mean, I know people that have been hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt because of their event,
Yeah.
And that sucks because they're great events. They're so fun.
Right.
They're amazing. But yeah, there is a lot that goes into it. So, I mean, if you're thinking about an event or doing something like even just a one-day event, you got to crunch the numbers off the top. And there is a way to be profitable. In fact, every single Ember we've had was profitable. We made money from it, which is great. But again, it's a separate part of the business. It takes a lot of energy, a lot of work, which is kind of why we reevaluated this year of like, okay, is this going to be the last one for now, just because of the amount of output that it costs for the amount of that we were getting back from it.
Yeah.
And after 2020, expenses went up like doubled. So
Right.
it just wasn't quite making sense. We still were profitable, but is that where we want to put our attention and focus? So yeah, I mean, I think that they do lead to so much value, and I do miss that in-person connection, and that's what's such a bummer is they do cost a lot of money and they do take a lot of work, but I do feel like that in-person connection that you can get at an event is very different than something that you can get from like an online workshop or something like that. So
Totally.
I don't know. I think our industry's shifted a little bit, and I'd love to see more events come back into place. We'll see where things go with hair shows and other things. I don't know what the future is.
Have you been to the new ISSE premiere Anaheim?
I did.
That's
yeah,
near you.
I went to that. When was that? I keep forgetting because it changed dates. But I did go earlier this year. Yeah, I was a speaker at it.
Okay.
And I think with any of them, whether it's ISSE or IBS or Premiere, right? Like they all now, some of them are even owned by each other. I do wonder what's going to happen in the future of that, and whether it is going to be smaller, more independent type of events and education. And I think it comes down to where the brands are going to put their money, who's showing up to these events. I don't know if you've been to any shows lately. I know we kind of missed show season, but yeah.
I went to Premiere Anaheim. I think it was the first one. No, I think I went to the last two. I think we've had two since recording this. I don't know if this is, I'm not sure even when the next one is, if it's in January, because I know the show in Southern California is usually around January.
But it changes. I don't know.
But it changes, and I don't know when this is going to drop. If it drops around January, it could be confusing to people. But at the beginning of 2024, I think it was the last one that I went to. And the way that Premiere does things is differently than the way that ISSE used to happen. They've gotten a little bit more formal in how they structure, which brands get what access to the floor or to the classrooms. Now they require that if you want a classroom, you only get a classroom if you have space on the floor. So a brand will buy space on the floor and have a kiosk that says, go up to the classroom, and that's it. Which stinks for independent educators. It stinks for us, the Hair Game podcast, because we used to go to ISSE and we would get a classroom, and I don't even know if they charged us for it, but they would give us a classroom, and we would tell them we're going to do something cool, and that was enough. But now you have to everything, you have to pay for it. And it doesn't make any sense for us at the Hair Game podcast or even Salon Republic to pay for, floor space.
Classroom space.
We don't sell a product. If you sell a product that you can scale and all that kind of stuff, then
sure.
And I think that's limited how the show feels and what you're getting from it, in my opinion. I'm trying to be unbiased about it. But I think from the standpoint of a beauty professional who's showing up, I think it feels a little more corporate and a little bit more big. And that's because the only way that you can actually have a presence is by being a big corporate.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. Like, I think that's the bummer, because I do think, like, again, there's so much power in these in-person events, and yet there are educators like me that don't work for brands. And so I have had an opportunity to work with Premiere, but it was through them specifically, you know what I mean, and just different things. So, but there's not always that opportunity. And I've had to fight my way to get into classrooms and make sure that I had a spot there, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to be at these hair shows. And I just am curious to see what's going to happen in the next 5-ish years, 5 to 10 years of, will hair shows even exist anymore? You know, we've seen since COVID, a lot of the big brands, they put a lot of money into being there on those showroom floors, and for them to not have to spend that during the COVID years and be like, oh, well, we could put this into digital marketing, or we could do this into individual classes. Maybe our money is better spent elsewhere. And so a lot of the big brands, in my experience, have pulled out from these shows. And so a lot of the shows are smaller brands, which is totally fine and amazing, but you don't have the draw of the big brands bringing some of those educators and doing those like big booths and things. And so I don't know, it just kind of feels different. And I do wonder if that experience is good for the attendee. Are they getting out of it what they want? And also good on the educator side and on the brand side. Like, I just don't know. And I'd be curious to see what happens. I don't know. I mean, big, wise visionary, I would love to see more like independent events and stuff. But again, I just know that it costs a lot. And unfortunately, then the tickets cost more and people are less willing to travel, you know? So I don't know.
It's quite a gamble, you know, for years, we've contemplated doing a summer hair event. And every time we look at it, we're like, oh my God, this is going to cost so much money. We would have to charge people, you know, X dollars. We don't know if they're going to think it's worth it. If they don't come, I mean, we're literally out hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's going to take us 6 months to plan it. And all these other things that it's probably why, you know, a city like Los Angeles, biggest hair market in the world, doesn't really have a hair event, which is insane. But that's why, because it's just wild stuff. I mean, even the lookbook events that we used to be involved with, those cost, whether it was us or whether it was, you know, the other producers involved, it cost significantly. There was no money being made there. It was all cost, and that's why they couldn't continue. But that is, and to give one more perspective on this topic, you know, I've know a lot of people at the brands, and they've been complaining to me, the people who are in charge at these brands of doing these shows, they've been complaining to me a long time about how much money they cost in order for things like just to bring boxes into the convention center. You can't just take a dolly and throw some. You have to hire the union company to do it. And you're paying, I'm going to make up the number, but it was insane. It's like $150 an hour for people to like move boxes. And there's like this insane minimum where, you know, you're looking at $100,000 to have a small booth. And these other things where you're like, why does it have to be like that? Like, I just want to move a box. Why do I need to hire these 20 people are the only 20 people in the world who can move this box for me in here right now? You know, these are like the things in the sausage making that are the reason why sometimes these things don't work out ultimately.
Yeah. And I think, again, it's a bummer, because I've seen the power of like being able to be there in person, and like just even being able to teach at these events, I'm able to connect with people on a different level than what I can at a DM or what I can through a podcast or through an online workshop. There's just something powerful about it.
Totally.
And so, I mean, like I said, long-term visionary. If I was a big investor in the hair industry, I would love to do big things. It's just trying to see how we can make that happen. I don't know. Maybe we all got to pool our powers together and figure it out. But
there you go. All right. Any last insight? So you talked to lots of different hairstylists, and any kind of general insight into the industry, you know, generally right now?
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, obviously for me, I live a little bit more on the digital side of the hair industry because I'm not in the salon. I'm not seeing that day-to-day stuff. And I think there are a ton of educators that do and that teach and that educate in that way. But I live more on the digital side. So whether that's Instagram or online or YouTube or whatever. And like where I think the industry is going is I'm excited for it. I think that there's a lot of potential. I think that hairstylists, to be 100% honest, we tend to take a long time to adapt to things digitally. So like I talked about in 2018, probably my messaging at that point was like, get on Instagram. You got to get on Instagram. And it took us a while to get there. And I kind of feel the same way about things like AI, with just even using like video and editing video. Like, I think it takes us a little bit of time. And the thing is, like, as hairstylists, we are so capable. Like, we are creative humans. We are business owners. Like, even if you're a commission stylist, you are a business owner. Like, you absolutely have a business mind to be able to get clients and retain them. That is a business owner mindset. And so, like, we're really smart. We can figure things out. And I just think that sometimes we think like, oh, I'm just a hairstylist. I'm not good at finances. I'm not good at videos. I'm not good at this or that. And we limit ourselves. And so like, I just think that there's so much opportunity for us to kind of lean into that. And that's kind of like where I'm going with even just my content and my brand. I'm changing a lot of things up in 2025. And if you've been following along on Instagram, you probably have seen that. But yeah, just talking about more stuff than just Instagram, more stuff than just behind the scenes of getting more clients. It's like, okay, how do we build a sustainable business from things like finances, things like using AI to make our lives a little bit easier? Of course, Instagram is part of that, but how do we just use that business owner mindset to kind of move forward and to grow our businesses? So that's where I'm looking. And I think that's kind of where the industry's going. So we'll see.
I love it. I love it. Well, Jamie, it's so nice to see you again. Thanks for coming on. This is officially your 4th episode of the pod.
Crazy.
I don't know how many people have 4 episodes at the Hair Game podcast. There might be 2 or 3 only.
Look at us.
So,
I love it.
yes.
Well, I feel very honored that you had me back again.
And
I'm excited for our conversation in 3 years, see where things are going to go.
Hopefully not 3 years. I feel honored that you've come and given us your wisdom and intelligence and motivation and all that. So I thank you very much.
You.
Audience, please look her up, Jamie Dana Hairstylist, and check out our YouTube. I don't often say that because most of the hair community isn't necessarily on YouTube, but check out our YouTube as well.
Thank you.
So thanks, Jamie.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.